Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Game Week 11. My name is Fergi, and I'm joined today, as usual, by my co-host, the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 10?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. I got a green, mate. Nice bounce back from the 150% reduction the previous week. But yeah, no, I got a decent green. It was a hell of a week for points, wasn't it? It was absolutely scores in the 90s, bench boosts going way over 100. There was some fantastic scores out there. So if you're one of those people, if you bench boosted last week, or if you got a full house of defensive players like I did and many others did, then well done. It's a much better feeling, isn't it, than when we get a sort of 35-point average game week and we're all wondering what the hell to do. Yeah, that was a really enjoyable game week. I think it was one where the games kind of went as predicted. You know, all the big teams won. You know, the teams we invest in, you know, pretty much delivered. You know, when you get sort of like all your defenders getting a clean sheet when you expect them to, your captain brings in a nice double-figure haul. It just felt a kind of comfy, ready Breck type game week, didn't it?
Ready Breck, I love that, exactly. Mate. One for the kids.
Exactly. So yeah, my own team pretty good. Midfield was a bit disappointing. Only Bruno got an assist. Everybody else blanked. But they could have been so much different. I mean, Bruno hit the post. Sarr hit the post. There was a lot of nearly points there in the midfield, but Anderson and Sanchez in particular for me, you know, helped make up for only having one defender from Arsenal, and it feels like I'm the only content creator that only has one defender from Arsenal. So they're my lesser ranked defenders are doing the business for me. And obviously I had Mateta already and decided that I would sell João Pedro, which obviously didn't go very well for most people that did sell him, as he got a 9-pointer himself, and that I'd use that money to bring in Saka, basically. So I also sold Enzo in order to be able to afford Saka. So that Saka transfer has been really expensive for me, and I hope it pays off in the next couple of weeks, really, because he's 10.1 and I've got him alongside Bruno, and I've had to sacrifice my Chelsea guys.
Yeah, I think it's the right move, mate. It's just a fixture this week, home to Wolves, isn't it? Which is a bit of the scary, but I think it was the right move. Burnley, FPL, Freddie in the chat, Saka had 2 big chances as well. You know, scored midweek and stuff. So you know, it's just one of those days. So yeah, I think it was. Yeah, he is, mate. Agree. Good stuff. You're on a roll, mate. 400k, absolutely superb stuff. I wildcarded, and I got 72 points. I got a small green arrow. However, if I hadn't have wildcarded, I would have had an absolute howler. I should have wildcarded in Game Week 8. I talked about it. I don't know if you remember back, Rich, but we were saying, I was saying that my team looked okay for that week. You know, I had Foden and Reinders and all these mugs who haven't scored for weeks and weeks. They all seem to kind of save it for the Champions League. The same with Gordon, but they didn't do it. And Gabriel, for example, kept on doing it. And I should have just bit the bullet at that time. So I've been saying all season, I didn't want to wildcard to transform my team. I wanted to wildcard just to keep it. You know, I think of who was it? I was watching. There was a quote on EastEnders the other day, and there was Yolandi. I don't know if you're familiar with Yolandi.
Family sorted.
Family. It's all about family. But I sound like Scott here, don't I? Yeah. But Yolandi said she used an analogy around the buffers on a bowling alley, and she just said, in terms of life, she's just the buffers, just kind of, you know, just gently guiding you down the right path. And that's what I should have used my wild card for. I don't know why I've gone to Yolandi for my FPL analogies, but I should have used my wild card to just nudge me on the right path rather than try and transform my team. But anyway, 72 points, very, very template team. My only differential really was Buemo. I did have Saka, who wasn't as highly owned as I kind of thought. A lot of people are not going for him now, even though Gyökeres is injured. They're not going for him, which I'm quite surprised at. And I do understand there's other superb options. I had Enzo first on my bench, which is fine because he'd be coming in now home to Wolves in Game Week 11. So I wouldn't say it's an underwhelming wild card, because if I hadn't have wild cards, I'd have been in trouble. I would have had a massive red again. But yeah, be interested in the chat's view on the Spaff-o-meter. I don't know what you think, Rich.
I think there's nothing wrong with your team, and there's nothing wrong with your team this week. It looks really good again. I think it's like 99% or something for this coming week or ongoing. So I can't say you've spaffed it. I mean, you've set it up for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Certainly, how it'll fare through the game week 13 to 17 period, I'm not sure. You might be wishing you still had one then, and you might have to use up some of your AFCON transfers down the line to make it right.
Yeah.
But on the whole, I think it's in the middle category personally. I think it's a meh and a little asterisk next to it to say let's go back and review it and see if it gets you up towards the top million in the next 2 or 3 weeks, then it's going to be arguing for a smashed it, isn't it? So.
I think so. I think Mayor is fair. We've had a few Mayors in the chat as well, and yeah, I agree. But I'm reasonably happy, because if I hadn't a wild card, I would have been in trouble, and that's and that for me is the biggest thing. And I've got the team in place now. I've got a plan. I can save this week. I can afford to Liverpool potentially in game week 12, or even Arsenal. Look at players like maybe Rice or or something like that. So I've set myself up now for this next period up to game week 15 and 16, which we'll talk about in a bit around AFCON. But overall, I'm pretty. I'm sort of reasonably happy. So let's say hello to everyone in the chat. And Ian McLaughlin is in. Alan Pup, John A. Conley, Lulu, Rice or Sarr. A quick answer on that one, Rich. A one-word answer: Rice or Sarr for this week?
For this week, probably Rice, just on form, but it's close.
It is indeed. Mauro is in, says, hi, both listening from sunny Barry Island. Harry's great company, but unfortunately I have Saffron with me as well. Yeah, that's not the best there, Mo. Unlucky. Couple of my friends over on the island. Mr. Gaz is in. TL01, Dave Hannigan. James Thompson says, love that people are selling Saka, so short-sighted. He will come good. Rice will soon dry up. I like that. Rice will dry up. Very, very good. FPL Mackham has a violin moment. Benched Xhaka last minute for Semenyo for EO. See, it's all EO just kills the game, doesn't it? And a -4 from Sanchez to Raya. Not too bad, you've got. I think that's fine.
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, good stuff. I think we will go for a May, won't we? Just before we look ahead, then, if you have had a bad start at FPL. Help is at hand. You can come and join over 400,000 managers taking advantage of weekly transfer recommendations powered by AI specifically for your team by clicking the top link and joining Fantasy Football Hub. You will not regret it. Okay, Rich, let's look at the fixtures for the coming period. Obviously, we're heading into game week 11, game week 15. After game week 15, we get 5 free transfers ahead of AFCON. So this period here is pretty critical in terms of looking to sign off the first half of the season, where you have to manage your transfers anyway. We now know that there is not going to be a blank game week or a double game week in the first half of the season. That was confirmed last week. It does mean that Palace have a hell of a schedule around that period. Is it 4 games in 8 days or something like that? It's absolutely crazy.
It is at the moment. Yeah, I think they have, along with Arsenal, they have both requested the FA that they move that Sunday fixture back by a day. I can't see any reason why that won't, apart from maybe TV wrangling, that doesn't get moved back to the Saturday, just to give them a 2-day break between the Saturday and the EFL Cup quarter-final. But that's yet to be confirmed. But it still won't result in a double game week. It will just give the team an extra day's rest, which I think probably Palace, with their thinner squad, will need more than Arsenal. But it does mean now that if particularly from maybe a chip strategy perspective, it was shaping up quite nicely, wasn't it, to be able to pivot the free hit around that game week 17 and maybe not worry about having 5 or 6 Arsenal Palace assets going into it, getting rid of them all for a free hit, and then getting them back again in game week 18. But now that won't be necessary, so it kind of leaves us with a bit of a spare free hit rattling around and wondering what to do with it, really, especially if you've still got other chips left to use as well. So Not sure what have you got left? Have you just got the 3 hit left?
I've got 3 hit left now. Yeah. So I haven't really thought when I'm looking at this period between like 13 and 15. Obviously Liverpool have got really nice fixtures, but City have as well. But it feels like, I don't know. It feels like I'm the kind of manager, complete opposite to you and probably most other engaged managers. I don't really like to plan ahead, sort of 5, 6, 7 weeks in advance. I just can't do it. I can't do it because so many things change. Look at Sunderland now. Sunderland away was a massive green easy fixture a few weeks ago. Now that's going to be a hard game for Arsenal. Arsenal played incredibly well. I think Arsenal win, but I'm not going to. I don't think it's going to be the kind of 4 or 5-0 maybe, which we were thinking a few weeks ago. So
and it's good to see. It's good to see that on the ticker, it's now showing as more of a yellow fixture. It's more of an in the middle game for teams. So we're not showing it as a green at the hub anymore because clearly Sunderland are having such a good season that they deserve a kind of a mid-table status, don't they, in terms of those fixture ratings? So that's good to see. However, bringing it back to the ticker, look who's bottom of the ticker now. It's Sunderland. They've now gone to 20th place over the next few weeks, and play several of the big teams. They play Arsenal, Liverpool, and City in the next 5. So it now does not look like the time for investing in Sunderland. And if you have a cheap defender, he's fine to hold. But I wouldn't be going there right now. But in terms of the immediate fixtures, and I like the way you've done this, Fergie, or Scott's done this, in terms of like just running it up to game week 15, because after game week 15, we've got the AFCON transfers. Everybody gets topped up to a transfer bank of 5 the following week. So really, it's nice to look at these next 5 in a block and really decide what we're going to do with remaining free transfers. Because if you don't know, and most of the people watching do, you want to go into game week 16 skint with no transfers. Whatever your chip strategy is, you want to have 0 transfers in the bank after game week 15 so that you get the full 5 given to you. So Bournemouth, look at Bournemouth. They've gone all the way back to the top, Fergie. So Senesi will be dusted off from benches and brought back out into the centre of defences certainly from next week. There could still be time for Krupi Jr., where I went with my Pedro transfer to get some returns against West Ham in game week 12. And then after that, they still managed to take top space in the ticker with West Ham, Sunderland, Everton, and Chelsea after the break. So I really like Bournemouth. They could be. It's got to be worth holding on to Semenyo. There was talk of people getting rid of him last week, and I still think you've got to hold him.
You've got to hold him.
Yeah, he's fine. Palace in the second position. That's pretty much as you were. Most of our content the last 2 weeks has been about loading up on Palace, and they're still performing. I think they're playing this evening as well, so fingers crossed they get through. They'll probably play all their big guns again in their European game. But yeah, as you were with Palace, if you don't have your full complement left, then Mateta looks clearly the second best striker out there at the moment. Sarr is still a good investment, though he does have a lot of competition at his price point, and most of us probably already have a Palace defender in our mixes. Then we've got Brighton. I think Brighton, I've got a little arrow next to them saying, they now need to come into the reckoning. A lot of people thinking about going for Minte this week. He's certainly on my radar as a bit of an upgrade in midfield. Looks really good. He is one of many, many players who returned 9 points last week, and there were loads of them, including Njai, and all these guys are people who are competing around the 6 million price point. Do you like Brighton? Welbeck, if you do want a third striker, is under consideration. And Brighton's fixtures: Brentford, Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa, West Ham in the 4 after the break. So a nice little run of fixtures for Brighton up until the AFCON week. Newcastle next on the ticker, but not really for me. Newcastle aren't really attracting me at the moment. A lot of people got Pope. A lot of people went for Gordon. I think you had Gordon in your team, didn't you? I think he got a knock, or he got injured last night, and just not sure they're worth investment despite their fairly lofty status on the ticker. I think from game week 13 they might be back on the radar if they're playing well. That's maybe when I'm looking at getting them in. And then City, obviously, they're going to be very attractive, a little bit like Liverpool after the international break. But the two of them face off head to head this weekend in the big game. And so really, you could go early, but I don't think it's worth it. That game is difficult to call. Could be 2-2, something like that. So I'd just leave that one alone for investment this week. Any thoughts from you?
Well, you've covered that beautifully, mate. There, no, I think I would agree on your assessment of Liverpool. I think from game week 12 onwards, I think it looks like we've seen a bit of a resurgence with sort of back-to-back wins, clean sheets as well. I think they're going to improve at the right time as well for Liverpool and their fans and FPL manager game week 12 when their fixtures turn obviously really, really nicely. Forest at home, West Ham away, Sunderland home, Leeds away from 12 to 15. But I think we can wait a week. As you say, City are superb, and there are teams, you've mentioned Bournemouth, Palace, Brighton, and Enzo maybe, or or someone like that who've got players in the price points who have ongoing really good fixtures as well. So you can probably wait, or just wait and save. So I think you're right there. But I'm very interested in a couple of Liverpool players in game week 12. I think the strategy I deployed right at the start of the season, remember in game week 1 where I went sort of triple Liverpool to counter Salah. I kind of like that again. Not the triple, and the players will probably be different, but players like Szoboszlai, it's the price as well, right? You can get both Szoboszlai and Gakpo, for example, for less than Salah, and you're probably not going to captain Salah either from 12 to 15 because Haaland's form is so good. But we can afford to wait another week. We'll see Liverpool this week against City. I mean, if Liverpool go and smash it, and Salah's absolutely on fire, then we got a decision to make. And yourself as a wildcard holder, still, you've got a hell of a decision to make there because most people have used their wildcards now, and it's not easy to get back to Salah. You could have a wild differential there, because there's so many cheaper mids as well. Exactly. You could go for, and no forwards hardly available or playing. That you're laughing. So I think it feels this week is a bit of a wait and see week because a lot of the teams have either. They either play each other in terms of Liverpool or City, or like Chelsea have got Wolves. You sort of hold them. Arsenal against Sunderland. Palace got a nice home fixture. You're just holding these players. It feels like a save role, an observation week before game week 12 is where you can really either use your wild card, use your transfers, and really attack these next 4 fixtures. Before then, obviously, we go into AFCON, and goodness knows what that is going to bring in terms of, because so many players are leaving, the impact that will have on teams. And we'll probably talk about this a little bit more, maybe either the next preview or after that, what it actually means, because there are going to be players come to the fore who we haven't even thought of yet. There's the potential, for example, for someone like, Frimpong for Salah. And I'm saying this very much still in game, we're still in game week 10 or 11, right? But there will be players who will come in and take advantage in this period. And there's still chips. You mentioned the free hit, Rich. I haven't got a clue. I started to answer and I stopped, but I think I'm probably going to leave mine. I think I might play it at a bit of just a bit of an opportune moment, I think, rather than try and plan around it, because I don't do very well when I do that. And I just think there's so much going on. There's so many moving parts. I actually think that'd be quite hard. So, yes. So because come game week 16, we're not going to know what the lineups are going to look like and how the teams themselves are going to change, because there's going to be lots of good top teams who are going to have to change their front lines around. So it's going to be interesting. Yes. Shall we have a look at some players? Yes. Rich, who you fancy?
I mean, look, we're looking at a roll week if you can. Obviously, it's always really nice to roll into an international break and have some reserves when we come out of it. But not everybody has a clean team. There are lots of people who probably thinking about selling Gyökeres this week because he's a lot of money and he's not going to play. So if you have flag players and you're looking to make a move this week, then there are some opportunities. I mean, we've stuck him back in. He was the laughing stock of FPL for about 3 or 4 weeks. He wasn't taking a shot at all. And isn't it just peak FPL that you sell João Pedro and then he put up something like 1.9 XG in the game, more than his entire season up to that, apart from game week 1 or something. And basically, he was unlucky not to get an absolute haul. So those that did keep him, did very well. And now, of course, you hold for the 2 plum fixtures against Wolves and Burnley. Now, if I had the money and I hadn't spent it on Saka, I probably would shamefully go back to him and just get him back for the next 2 games. But
hands up, apologise. I'm so sorry, Joe. I'm back.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, let's give it a go, because the next 2, arguably the 2 easiest fixtures you could get, Wolves and Burnley, particularly Wolves at home. I mean that
definitely
that could be big, and that I feel exposed in that game. So yeah, Pedro's good. If you've got him, hold him. Consider buying him, but I wouldn't hit him in. But there we go. Minte, he's on my radar. We've mentioned him already. I think he's a nice, affordable upgrade, perhaps from a Reinders, or perhaps from somebody who you may have flagged in midfield, or you just want to go for a 5-man midfield because you've got your funds from selling last week, or your funds from selling Gyökeres. Really like Minte. And also, if you can't run to João Pedro, which I can't, I can just about afford the guy in the corner, Moise Caicedo, who's turning into a sharp-shooting DEFCON monster. He keeps shooting from outside the box. He's massively overperforming his expectations just from a sort of eye test perspective. He just keeps on scoring screamers every week, and it will just give me a little bit of cover for those 2 fixtures. And I'm a little bit divided between the 2, personally. They're both 6 million, both identical, probably unlikely to rise before the weekend. But if you are thinking of a wild card in 2 or 3 weeks' time, then why not have either of those 2? And then on the other side, 25 points in the last 2 weeks for Casemiro, also available at 5.5 mil, I think.
That's a rogue shout there, Rich.
Exactly, yeah. I stuck him in, and Scott actually was suggesting that we put Szoboszlai in here, which I think could have been equally a good pick, and people are going early for him. He has gone up to 6.6, but I didn't put him in, or we didn't put him in on the edit because of the fixture, just because they're playing City. So I expect next week's picks will be full of Liverpool guys. But yeah, Casemiro, if you're looking for a cheap United midfielder to go alongside Mbeumo or Bruno, then Casemiro's on the radar. He looks fitter than he did last season. He certainly seems to be getting a lot of chances. And then similarly, another person kind of overperforming expectations this season is Declan Rice. Hugely popular for that 3rd Arsenal spot, and much more affordable if you don't want to go Saka. There seems to be a huge log jam of people between 5.5 and 7 million that you can go for. You could have an entire midfield made up of that price point if you wanted to.
What are your thoughts, Rich, strategically? Because part of the reason I went for Saka, he's obviously a fabulous player. Kind of lucked in a little bit that he's going to be on pens as well now. But one of the main reasons I went for him was the price point in terms of the flexibility. Because that's something maybe I haven't done before. I've just thought, stuff it. I'll just go, and it always ends up sort of biting me then, because you always have to fight your way out. Because we've got wild cards and we've got free hits and we've got 5 free transfers, so all of a sudden it doesn't feel quite as urgent. Like you haven't got a stretch of 12 games ahead of you where you can't get back. And I still think that Saka will return pretty heavily over the next few weeks. Even that Spurs game, he's gonna get something in that game, right? So I still like him. What are your thoughts on him? Because I know you've got him. I know you were scared of him. He didn't return again last week. Mm-hmm. He has scored again midweek. What are your thoughts on him now, objectively, in terms of people who are not, who haven't got him yet?
He's a stretch to get to, and justifiably so, because if you've got a Bruno or a Haaland in your team already, you are stretching the budget to have a 3rd premium, if you like, in there. But once you get there, it does give you options in terms of scrambling up to a Salah, perhaps using free transfers, or bringing in Cole Palmer when he comes back. And he's not far away, Palmer. He might even be on the bench this weekend or just after the break. So I expect it'll be after the break. But yeah, you only need another 500,000 to get to Palmer, or maybe only 200 or 300k to get to Palmer. So I like it from that price point perspective. I don't think I'll own him forever, but he does look. He looks great. I mean, he looks like he looks fit. He looks on form. Arsenal clearly dependent on him, so I really am hoping for some returns. And because he's not hugely owned, he could be really good for rank as well. It's not like everybody's on him.
That's right.
But if you do want cheaper options, then Rice is a good alternative. A little bit like saying, do you go for cheaper Liverpool assets than Salah? Do you go for Rice over Saka, and put the money into defence instead? So I think you'll see a lot of people wanting Liverpool players in coming weeks. So Rice, I think, he's worth a shout. He just hasn't been really on the fantasy radar for some years, although he scored those 2 unbelievable goals in the Champions League last year, and they if they'd come in the Premier League, maybe he'd have been on radars last year. But yeah, I mean, I like him as a person, I like him as a player. I've just never really considered Rice as fantasy material. How about you? What do you think of Declan?
Yeah, no, I think he's a great option. I just can't see past Saka, Gabriel, and Timber is the problem. They've almost got too many fantastic options at the moment. Their fixtures do turn. It's going to be interesting. In game week, I think it's 12 or 13, and maybe we move away from a second defender potentially. But the defense is so good. I mean, they just don't concede. What they conceded is it 3 goals all season or something absolutely ridiculous. And that's in all competitions. So maybe it's wrong, but I just feel that the price point and the other incredible options just don't lend himself into the team. I don't think he's going to cover Saka. Saka's going to have a haul soon, like some generational 17 pointer, and Rice is going to get booked and go back to the number 6 role, and it'll be, oh god, I should have gone Saka. We all know to go Saka.
Saka will haul in one of the games where you don't expect him to. It won't be against a Sunderland or a Burnley. It'll be against Chelsea, or it'll be against Tottenham.
It'll be against bloody Spurs, being a Spurs in game. He's home to Spurs in game week 12, and there's no way in the world Saka's not returning in that game. So as you say, Chelsea away, Brentford and Villa, they're the ones that and they're the games maybe when you think about sort of Rice in in these easier games, he's probably had the license to go a bit more forward in those games when he's played Spurs and Chelsea and things. He's not. He's maybe not. He is on on corners of things, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. I did have a point to say then, but I got lost in it all. But yeah, good stuff, Rich. And in terms of predicted points for the next 4 weeks, Haaland, it's always Haaland, just an absolute machine, top 31, another goal in midweek as well. Just on Foden, obviously I've just sold him after blankety blank. Like Reinders had 2 assists for 2 Foden goals last night, man. I've held him for bloody weeks.
I know. Well, I was quite pleased about the Reinders assist, because it's made me think, well, he's probably going to get a start against Liverpool, so I might just play him, and that makes it easier to roll for me. But yeah, I think Foden, some of these guys, they are saving their best for the Champions League, aren't they? They're coming up with the returns not when we want them to. So
I've had Gordon, Foden, and Reinders for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they've all done something pretty special in Champions League and absolutely nothing in the Premier League, which is so frustrating.
I know. But
Salah,
what else we got here?
Go on with Salah 27, Mateta 24, Saka 23, Bruno 23, Semenyo and Gabriel 23 and 22, and Mbeumo Szoboszlai is high up. Enzo also there 21. Rice is there, as is Ahmad. Did he score last week, Ahmad? We were kind of laughing that AI always fancies players like Szoboszlai and Ahmad, and there they are returning. João Pedro, Gakpo, Cunha, Sarr, and then we go on. But don't forget, you can look at these predicted points yourself. Spin them anywhere you want at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Click the top link in the description below. Any kind of stands out or omissions?
Well, I mean, there's still, good to see a few defenders creeping on to the predicted points, because in terms of points so far, in the top 20 players so far this season, I think something like 12 of them are defenders. It's a huge amount of defensive contributions. Not just defensive contributions that's making it, it's attacking returns from those defenders. So the likes of Virgil, Chalobah in particularly as a pick of the Chelsea defenders, I think, over the next couple. Cucurella's in there as well. Look how high Gabriel is in that list of expected returns. So, he's now a captaincy discussion, isn't he, Gabriel? I think some people were brave enough to go there last week and just lost out by a point to Haaland in the end.
And they were unlucky in the end, yeah.
Worth taking it on. I mean, he's just a machine. Now up to 6.6. I can see him getting to 7 million at this rate, and he's still going to be worth it then. So, yeah, Gabriel, really like him. You've got to have him, as you say. People who are late on him, it's still not too late to get him. Just get him because he's not going to be
pretty much. He's pretty much essential. I dread to think what his average scores have been in the last sort of four game weeks or so. He's had a couple of 12s in there, haven't he? He's he must be averaging sort of 9 or 10 points a game at the moment. With still Sunderland to go, and he's just so dangerous off those corners. It's crazy. He's even having assists and goals in Champions League. He had a goal and assist last week. Was it in the Carabao last week? I want to say the Carabao. He had an assist this week as well. He's just everywhere. Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's have a look at the best wildcard team now for Game Week 11. We probably wouldn't recommend wildcarding this week, I think, obviously because of the swings in Game Week 12 or 13. But it's gone for Dubravka and Petrovic in goal. We've then got Gabriel, Timber, Keane, Mukiele, and you mentioned him earlier, Senesi, whose fixtures improved dramatically from Game Week 12. And as you know, he was superb for DEFCON, attacking intent, plays for a good team, so he's definitely on the radar. He's 5 million now. And as we know that Keane is going to be very likely in the team until Christmas for Everton. Midfield of Enzo, Bruno Fernandes, Semenyo, Szoboszlai makes it into the wildcard team, and Josh King as a 4.5, and then a front three then Haaland, Mateta, and João Pedro. João Pedro's back in a double up. You're going to see Enzo assist for Pedro, mate, this week. And being a Chelsea fan, it's going to be one of those weird ones.
I want to make sure I'm out at a firework party for that. Definitely.
Joe, I remember a few years ago when I think it was Son scored. Did he score 4 goals in like Game Week 3 or something? I didn't own him, and it was just so bittersweet because obviously being a Spurs fan, like, yes, come on, absolutely brilliant, but then you just think, oh, good. I didn't own him, and I couldn't get to him either. It was one of those things you just like, but yeah, I think that's a very, very template team at the moment. Maybe apart from maybe Szoboszlai, Senesi, maybe Keane, but very, very template there, which is probably why probably shouldn't be wildcard in 11, because I would guess it would look different in 12, and particularly
very
in 13.
Different in 12, won't it?
It will look massive in 13 as well when Chelsea's fixtures dry up. And and don't forget with this, and I've obviously see this firsthand. It only takes one player change, and it completely resets and creates a team from scratch. It's not like it will take out João Pedro and put in Thiago, right? It will use every penny, completely reset it. So the team looks very, very different if you adjust the expected minutes and things. So Chana 1000 says only 2 Arsenal in the wildcard. Interesting. That is because their fixtures obviously do toughen up come Game Week 12, but the form they're in is it's hard.
I still think a double Arsenal defense ad infinitum is the way to go.
Interestingly, we were talking about last week, weren't we, about Raya or Saka, whether you go for the keeper, and Raya he probably hit his ceiling or close to his ceiling last week and got 6 points. Saka did nothing and got 3, only a 3-point difference. So I quite like that. I see it like wrongly, and maybe this is why I lose at FPL, but I kind of see that as a bit of a win because Raya's hit his ceiling, Saka did nothing. And they, only a 3-point difference. So when the opposite happens and Saka gets, a 15-pointer to Raya's 1-pointer, which will likely happen at some point in his next 5 or 6 weeks, that's when you get the gains in it. So,
I mean, I think that the 5.8, it's not going to work very much on wildcards if you're trying to fit Salah into your team to have Raya in goal. You're going to have to go for a cheaper.
I think so.
A cheaper keeper because it's 5.8. Yes, you've got him and you got him at 5.5. You're not going to sell him because he's just returning. But I don't think Raya's a buy. I think you would look at a cheaper keeper. now. But yeah, fair play if you've got him. He's not doing any harm, is he?
No, well, no. Clean sheet after clean sheet.
How do you feel about the triple up on Arsenal defence?
I like it, but not with Raya. So I do it with Maccabi Fury. I said this last week. I think that's a really good move. He's getting rested midweek as well. It looks like in the Carabaos and Champions Leagues, rested again this week. So I really like the triple up for FPL. I'm just not a fan of Raya just because he hasn't got a high ceiling. I'm not sure I'd like it too much from game week 12 or 13 onwards, only because I think you've got teams like Spurs and Chelsea who are, even though Arsenal will probably win those games.
Yeah,
they'll probably concede in 2 of 3 of them, for example. So, but yeah, best free hit team, an interesting view this week. Areola. It's obviously, look at these targets and these fixtures, just beautiful fixtures this week. Areola's home to Burnley. Gabriel and Timber Sunderland. Shalabah, we've got a triple up of Chelsea, so Shalabah makes it at the back. 5.1 is quite cheap, I think.
Yeah,
for
home.
Home to Wolves, away to Burnley next two. He's a good pick, and then it does pick Saka, Enzo, Bruno, and Anderson. Forest home to Leeds, and then Haaland, Mateta, and João Pedro home to Wolves. It's going to be a tough all week without any Chelsea players for you, mate. Are you tempted to go back at all? Then?
You've got Sanchez, mate. The goalkeeper.
But Chelsea are going to win 5-1 against Wolves.
5-1, so. Yeah, exactly. No, he'll get booked for time wasting again. That does that every week. But yeah, no, he's got two clean sheets in 3, as our Robert. So I may buy a Chelsea player. I just can't get the one I want. But yeah, there we go.
Good stuff. Fergie is a punt for game week 11. I was a little bit torn this week. I like the shout of Bo in the chat, but I obviously went for him a few weeks ago. I won't be going for him again. So I've just tried to target, the next fixture or two, as we've said before. But I do want to go for a punt. I'm not going to go for, like a João Pedro or an Enzo or someone like that. I was so impressed again with Estevao. I mean, he looks some player, but he hasn't been starting regularly, is he, in the league, even though he's starting in the other games. You'd be interested to see if he starts this week. But my punt this week is a Chelsea forward. I think he had a knock. I hope he's back. I'm gonna just hedge a touch and just say I would either go for Estevao or this next player. I think he's gonna play, but I am tempted to go for a Chelsea attacker. This Wolves has been so bad, and Chelsea have improved. Pedro Neto, FPL Freddy got it right in the chat, is my punt for this week. For the next couple of games, he's a fabulous player. He's played 10 times this season, 2 goals, 2 assists, 14 shots, 11 shots in the box. Statistically not fantastic, but these next 2 fixtures are just insane. I do think that the other youngsters playing around him, going to inspire him to want to keep his place, because I think they're knocking on the door, particularly Estevao. If they shift around that front 4, he may find themselves out. But I would go for Pedro Neto and Garnacho. Exactly that. Even when Gittins is coming in and playing, all right, he hasn't quite done it yet. But all of them are getting pushed, aren't they? Yeah, they're all getting pushed. So Neto is one of those players who no one ever picks, because you've got your João Pedros, your Cole Palmers, your Enzos, but Pedro is there or thereabouts in terms of returns. So I think he could be a very, very good differential over the next
his old team.
Weeks. Exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah,
so
like that.
And they got good stuff, mate. And Rich against the machine for game week 11. Were you try and outdo the AI? What was the score? What was the score last week?
I got. I think Cunha didn't get anything, did he? I went for Cunha, and I don't think he returned. So I think it's about 6-2 to the machine at the moment. I'm not doing so well. The machine knows its stuff on the predicted points, but I've got an opportunity here to just get a win, even if I don't get an attacking return. So that appeals to me, and my pick against the machine this week is someone that I'm pretty sure is going to start for the best team in the league. I'm pretty sure he's going to start up front for the best team for the league, and he has a predicted points, I checked just before the show, of 1.8 predicted points on the week, and that pick is Mikel Merino. for Arsenal.
Good shot.
Scored twice in the Champions League this week, and in the absence of Gyökeres has been confirmed is out. I think it's too early for Havertz to come back. I'm pretty sure he's going to get the nod. So he's only got to play 60 minutes, and I've beaten the machine. So it's only a little bit of fun, this, but I do think he's primed for returns. And I think the other thing to say about him is if you are committed to wildcarding in game week 12, like you don't want to wait till 13, you want to go during the break and think about all your picks and make some money during the 2 weeks off, then Marino's not a bad shout for a 1 week punt in FPL if you really want to put him in your team. He's how much is he? 5.9. I think I could afford him. Yeah. I think I could afford him off Reinders, so I won't write off actually just punting him because I've got an Arsenal slot, and not many people have got an Arsenal slot to fill. So he'd be a huge differential to put in this week, and I think that might be worth a punt. And then it only put me in a slight bit of bother with needing to pick him or Krupi for game week 12 because I'm likely to wildcard in game week 13. So really like Marino, but it is short term. You can't expect him to necessarily play in game week 12. What do you think of that?
Well, I've just upped his minutes. live.
Oh well, I'm gonna get away with that then.
I've just upped his minutes, and I've upped them to 79 for this week.
Right. Okay.
And now he is to get 5.1 points for this week. So you've snuck in, Rich. You've snuck in, but I like that. We might be, but that's what it's all about, getting that edge, Rich. So no, I think exactly. we'll measure it against.
Yeah, against the 1.8.
Good stuff. No, I really like it. And if I was wildcard, for example, in game week 12, I say that I still think that the Chelsea options are probably better, sort of overall that whole fixture against Wolves. But Marino, any start in number 9, he'd be in a free hit team for sure.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that at all, mate. And scored a couple midweek, I think.
Yeah.
As well, didn't he? So. Good stuff. I like it. Interesting captaincy this week, potentially. Haaland, top and surprisingly predicted points, 7.9, obviously home to Liverpool. Mateta, home to Brighton, 6.3. Then Salah, 6. Then Saka, Enzo, Gabriel, João Pedro. Interesting, Enzo has got slightly higher predicted points than João Pedro this week.
Oh, we've lost Fergie. Hopefully he'll come back in a second. Scott, I think... he's back. Here he is. We just lost you, mate.
Sorry, mate.
Just about to take over.
I'm back. I can't remember where I was. Enzo just ahead of João Pedro, on predicted points. Interesting, Gabriel is 6th overall for overall predicted points this week in an away match. Absolutely crazy. Haaland, stand out against Liverpool. Liverpool have improved. What are your thoughts there, mate? And who would your vice be if you had to pick?
Well, I think this is a good week to take it on if you fancy a swing. I don't think I'm brave enough to do it because the downside of it going wrong is just going to ruin all the progress that I personally feel I've made myself.
Yeah.
So I don't need to chase it. But I think if you are a little bit further behind, it's a good week to make up some ground if you get the swing. I mean, I would go Saka if you have him away to Sunderland out of those. I wouldn't go Salah away to City.
No.
Mateta is an alternative, but because Palace are playing tonight, and I think Brighton have had a rest, I think that Palace game is going to be a little bit like the Palace-Bournemouth game. I think it'll be worth watching.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be one of those up and down 2-2, 3-3 type games with plenty of action. And I'm just not sure if Mateta will get all of the points for Palace. So I like it as a gamble week. It's not just a nailed on Haaland, but I think I'll just bottle it and go Haaland as it's a home game. How do you feel?
I just can't. Well, Haaland is just absolutely on fire. Liverpool are, you can just see this sort of high line of Liverpool getting sort of ripped open by, I don't know, a Foden or a Cherky and sending Haaland through. I just can't get against him by either objectively or Oreo. I think if I was to look elsewhere, if we look at the market odds, it's Chelsea who are predicted to score the most goals this week overall with 2.3. A Chelsea player, I'm not you go for João? Could you captain João Pedro? I don't know. Could you captain João Pedro?
Well, I have done already. I have done earlier in the season, and I got returns. Yeah, I did all right. I think I got 18 out of him.
You did. When he was on his,
didn't you? Yeah. No, I did captain him earlier, but it's going to take a brave person to do that this week against Holland. But yeah, that Chelsea fixture has a huge difference. 2.3 versus 0.85. So looking really good for defenses and attacking returns. But yeah, Enzo's probably the player I'm a little bit more afraid of not owning. I think he's definitely due. Enzo played very well again when he came on last night in Chelsea's fixture. Arsenal's the other fixture there with the 2.01 versus 0.69. So again, probably likely to romp home with a double clean sheet, most people, and a couple of goals there for Arsenal, which will probably be spread around the team. Let's hope Saka does get some of that. There's not much difference in terms of the expected goals between Arsenal and City, hardly 300ths of a goal. It's nothing, so both expected to win. But yeah, I just see if you think Liverpool could turn City over, which they've just beaten Madrid, could easily happen, couldn't it? And then you want to play the upside of the either Arsenal or Chelsea fixtures. It is a good week to do it. I mean, there's a couple of 0-0s there that I'll pick out. Everton v Fulham and Forest v Leeds look like low scoring affairs to me. So if you've got your defensive assets there, Andersons, your Rodons, your Tarkowskis, your Keanes, etc. I don't know anyone who's still got a Forest defender, but Dyche is turning the corner a little bit with Forest. I think they play this evening.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. But they don't look like high-scoring games. And then there's 4 matches, which I think are really
and they're going to be last on match of the day.
Yeah, there's 4 in the middle that are really close to call. Tottenham v Man U, first game up on Saturday lunchtime. Villa v Bournemouth, Palace v Brighton, Brentford v Newcastle. All of those, I think, are going to be decent, watchable games with maybe 2-1. Or upwards from there. I think they're going to be really close games. Very difficult to call on who comes out on top. So I think it's going to be a fun week for eye test managers, but a little bit difficult one to predict. Last week was more predictable, and so the scores were higher. I think this will be a 50-point week. We had a 35.1 2 weeks ago, a 90.1 this week, and now I think we're going to be right in the middle with this. I think in terms of the returns.
Good shout. FPL Freddy says Bowen could have a double-digit return this week. I do like the Bowen shout at home to Burnley this week. Again, if you're having sort of a 1 week free swing, I would definitely have a Bowen. If you're definitely wildcard, for example, in game week 12, you've already got Enzo or João Pedro. I quite like that.
Yeah, it's a week to play Paquetá if you've got him as your 8th defender as well.
I think
definitely put him in. Yeah,
good shout, mate. We've got your team up on screen now. You've got 97% overall rating by Fantasy Football Hub. You've got a game week rating of 95%. What are your thoughts this week?
Yeah, probably roll if I can. I don't have any flags. Slight concern over Reinder's start, but I think his 2 assists, and I think he was subbed after 73 minutes. So probably rested enough to get a start of the weekend. Pep was a little bit concerned about his fitness last week, and he explained why he didn't start him. So I think in your biggest game of the season, you're going to play your best 11. I'm not a City selection expert, but I think you'll see a fairly predictable City team. Cherky might keep him out, but I think Reinders is good for a start in a 3-5-2. So that would mean I have to drop one of Van der Ven and Anderson to the bench. Now, we're talking about Van der Ven before we came on air. What a goal against
Wingman's son, wasn't it?
I can't even remember who were Tottenham even playing against last night.
It was home to Copenhagen.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't PSG, were they? But what a goal! I mean, that is outstanding. And I think that's 6 goals in all competitions, maybe 7 for Van der Ven this season. He's the top scorer of defenders in terms of goals scored. I have owned him since game week 1, and I've missed all of his points.
Stop it, mate. Stop it.
So because
he's my fourth.
It is. I've missed all of them, and he's only scored them over 2 weeks. He got 23 2 weeks ago, and 14 about 6 weeks ago. But I've got an opportunity if I roll to start him against United on the weekend, and I don't think that looks too bad.
I think you've got to. I don't even think it's not too bad. I think it's one of those, mate. If you don't play him and he scores, you'd be, why the bloody hell didn't I play the most informed defender? Apart, obviously aside from Gabriel.
Exactly. I've got to throw him. I mean, the algorithms still don't like him. He's not in any free hit team. He's not in any wildcard team. He's not in any of your tables that you just put up. He's nowhere.
Because of defensive stuff.
Nobody likes him. But he's not a. I suppose he's not an engaged manager's pick, is he? He's in about 40% of teams, and it's all the casuals that are romping home.
And he's still only 4.8 million as well. He's cheap as chips.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's going to be as you have it. I might bench Anderson and put Reinders in, but if you've got a bench headache, then it says roll, doesn't it? Really, roll and have 2 in game week 12.
I think so. I think the game week 12 to 15 is going to be a super, super interesting period with lots of movement, lots of, there's fixture swings, there's Liverpool, even Man City. I'm going to call it now, pre-haul time, but I really like the look of Cherky. He scored a fabulous goal. I just remember in game week 1, and then I think he got injured for quite a while. But every time he plays, he seems to score, and I think that Cherky is going to be some player in the second half of the season. I'll call it now. In November.
I could put him in on the wild card, and have a bit of a differential there. So, if I do make a transfer, it's Reinders to one of Minte, Caicedo, or Marino. I could do all of those. I've got $500,000. Any of those tempt you?
No, I think.
Save it.
I think Marino for 1 week. But you're wildcard in 13, aren't you?
I'll wait till 13. Yeah, I won't. I don't want the stress during the international break. I'm going away for a few days.
if it was 12, I'd be maybe tempted, for a pure 1 week punt, because I do think he gets a lot of minutes this weekend. It's a good fixture. I think he could do well, but then they're home to Spurs, and you don't know who's going to be back, who's going to be fit, and then Reinders, he could be a good shout. So wait to Newcastle, I don't think so. And who else did you say? Sorry,
Caicedo to get some Chelsea cover, because I can't afford Enzo. Caicedo for a couple of weeks of DEFCONs, basically, or Minte for Brighton.
They're away to Bournemouth this week, aren't they? After the break, they've
got a home game after the break. Yeah.
Probably leave it this week, mate. I'll be honest. Maybe Marino at a push, but it's 1 week, maybe 2, maybe 2. I don't know. But good stuff, mate. Excellent team, excellent rank, absolutely flying. The cream has risen, as they say.
Let's hope so.
And my team for this week, I got a 99% team rating, which I should have after wildcarding, and a 97% game week rating, which I'm really, really happy with. Really happy with my team this week. Dubravka in goals away to West Ham, Gabriel, Timber, and Munoz, Saka, Enzo, Semenyo, Mbeumo, and Sarr, and then Haaland and Mateta. So I've got a very, very weak bench, but happy and rolling, I think. So bring on game week 12.
Yeah, it's an easy roll, isn't it? Because you've just, normally you wild card and you think, I don't want to waste a transfer the following week. You've got no flags. You didn't go for Jokeras, therefore you're fine. Your 3 Arsenal are the best 3 Arsenal. Your 3 Palace are the best 3 Palace. Then when there's no weaknesses in that starting 11 whatsoever, and you've got a full bench, so why?
It's just one of those weeks where. I'm not very outcome based as a manager. It's really sort of helped me mentally over the years. I used to be purely outcome based, but I just look at that team and think even if I was to sort of wildcard again now, probably couldn't pick a better team. And you've just got to let it ride. And hopefully, variance and luck kind of goes your way. But if it doesn't, I won't be annoyed, because I don't think I can do much better there, really. So I'm just happy to happy to play it out and see what happens. I'll have 2 free transfers going to game week 12. Like I say, I'm pretty excited. I may attack these Liverpool fixtures, but in a different way from others in terms of going for like a Szoboszlai and Gakpo and really try and double up on, I really like stacking those attackers for, stacking differential attackers, in those matches, go off to a flyer with Ekitike and Gakpo. I don't remember those kind of phantom Gakpo assists in game week 2 or 3. We had an 11-pointer for a couple of sideways passes, but that's what you get when you buy attackers and players in the front 3 or 4 for top players who've got great fixtures. So
I think a lot of us will be talking about Ekitike again in
it's just a fitness thing, and this is a thing. Sorry, that's remember I said earlier I was going to say something and I forgot. It's when we're talking about Saka, and the thing with Saka at the moment, there's no one in his price point. Like Isak, Palmer, Salah, maybe even Bruno. All these players, Watkins, all these players who historically you're all trying to squeeze in. There's just no one there to compete with him in terms of minutes, fixtures, penalties, all this stuff. All come off team form, player form, and that's why Saka for me is a bit obvious, because you can also go from Saka to Isak in 2 moves pretty easily in game week. Say Isak's fit, Ekitike gets injured, but it's going to be really interesting in game week 12. I think.
I think most people are going to want at least two transfers in game week 12. I think you can't see it now. You can't see where you've got a flag or where you've got an issue. Let's say Saka gets kicked to bits, playing for England in a dead rubber. And and you got to get rid of him. You can go anywhere with 2 transfers. So it's really good that transfer spent this week on a slight upgrade to a player. It just doesn't feel like it's worth it.
Completely agree, mate. And with that, that is it from us for this week. Thanks to everyone who joined in the chat, those who watch it back, and those listening on the podcast versions. Your support is very, very much appreciated. Thank you, Rich, as usual. Absolutely sterling, stellar stuff. You've carried me a bit this week. I moved house last week, so I was very sort of disengaged with the football. So I've just been catching up a bit in the last few hours, but you've carried us really, really well there. Much appreciated. Where can people get hold of you, mate?
At Rich Clarke FPL on X.
Good stuff. Thank you, Scott, behind the scenes, pulling all the strings as usual, doing an absolutely fantastic job. Saved me because I went white earlier and I wouldn't have been able to revive myself. Thankfully, we got Scott giving the mouth to mouth. My handle on X at FFH_Fergi. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watch, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast, leave us 5 stars and a comment. We'll be back in 2 weeks. International break now, Rich. Looking ahead to game week 12. In the meantime, have a fantastic game week 11. Enjoy the international break and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.